Good evening, welcome to News on 2. I'm Jessica Lee. Another suspect with the title Datuk Sri has been remanded for 4 days from today over a probe into suspected corruption involving a project worth 17 million ringgit to supply equipment for armoured military vehicles. The remand order on the 30-year-old man was issued by Magistrate Shah Wira Abdul Halim upon application from the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, or MACC. The suspect, who is the owner of the company which supplies equipment for armoured military vehicles, was arrested at 11 p.m. yesterday after he came to the MACC headquarters to give his statement. The arrest brings the total to 3 individuals remanded so far in connection with the case. Prior to this, 2 individuals, namely a Chief Executive Officer (CEO) and a female Chief Financial Officer (CFO) of a private company, were remanded for the same case. It was reported that the CEO with the title Datuk and the CFO were suspected of receiving bribes amounting to hundreds of thousands from several companies for the supply of equipment for the AV-8 and Adnan armoured carrier vehicles between 2015 and 2017. According to sources, MACC had also seized several luxury handbags and foreign currencies at the CFO's house. The 45-year-old CEO and a 53-year-old CFO were arrested on the 12th of May. The CFO, who was remanded for 4 days, was released on the 16th of May, while the CEO was released today. The Johor Bahru Sessions Court rejected the Malaysia Anti-Corruption Commission, or MACC's, application to deprive property rights involving former Johor Exco Dato' Abdul Latif Bandi, his son and daughter-in-law, worth about 1.58 million ringgit. Judge Kamaruddin Kamsun also ordered all assets, including 7 vehicles, 19 luxury watches and cash worth over 400,000 ringgit, to be returned to the 3 owners. The decision was, however, postponed to allow the prosecution to file an appeal in the High Court within 14 days. Otherwise, all of the assets will be returned to the owner. Earlier, the judge made the decision after the court reviewed all the exhibits in detail, aside from hearing submissions from both parties. On the 21st of April, Dato' Abdul Latif, with his son Ahmad Fauzan Hatim and a property consultant, were acquitted of all 37 counts of corruption involving Section 32, Subsection 8C and Section 89 of the Anti-Money Laundering, Anti-Terrorism Financing and Proceeds of Unlawful Activities Act, or AMLA 2001. The 9th Battalion of the General Operations Force, or GOF, seized 316 animals in 3 separate raids in Pasir Mas, Rantau Panjang and Pengkalan Kubor, worth a total of 1.1 million ringgit. Now, according to Commanding Officer Superintendent Ramli Poncho, his side believes that the supply of the livestock were meant to supply to the local market and outside Kelantan in conjunction with the upcoming Aidilfitri season. According to Superintendent Ramli, the seizure was made based on intelligence gathered by officers and personnel in Sungai Golok before a raid in Tok Uban, Pasir Mas on Friday, where 37 cattle were seized from a lorry. A second raid was made on Saturday in Kampung Pulai, Pengkalan Kubor, where 123 cattle were seized in a cage, while the third raid yesterday in Kampung Kubang Pak Hitam saw 75 cows, 46 Boer goats and 35 sheep seized. All seized animals were believed to have not possessed an import permit and were in violation of the existing regulations. He said the syndicate's modus operandi was to bring the livestock in between the time of breaking fast to the subuh prayers.
Pasaran ini adalah hasil pemantauan berterusan sepanjang malam, yang mana saya telah menggerakkan 382 anggota saya, pegawai dan anggota, memberi tumpuan khusus kawasan sepadan. Saya berharaplah ketirisan ini tidak berlaku, supaya pengusaha-pengusaha ini membuat proses jual beli mengikut cara yang sah, mengikut undang-undang.
He said this at a press conference in Kampung Kubang Pak Hitam, Rantau Panjang. The animals seized were handed over to the Malaysian Quarantine and Inspection Services, or MAQIS, for further action. There are only 200,000 tickets available for the KTM Electric Train Service or ETS and the KTM Intercity, of which some have already been allocated for sale during peak periods, especially between 24th of May and the 9th of June. Covering travels until 16th of June, KTMB has set aside 555,820 train tickets for the festive period.
Untuk waktu puncak bagi perjalanan di antara 24 bulan 5 hingga 30 bulan 5, perkhidmatan kereta api elektrik ETS masih berbaki tiketnya 33,151. Manakala untuk perkhidmatan KTM antarabandar, KTM Intercity masih ada 13,000 tiket yang dijual. Manakala untuk waktu paling puncak di antara 31 bulan 5 hingga ke 9 hari bulan Jun, kita masih ada lagi 24,480 tiket-tiket ETS dan 14,672 tiket-tiket untuk perkhidmatan KTM antarabandar Intercity.
He, however, added that KTMB would be willing to issue additional tickets and increase the frequencies of its trains if there is a demand.
Minta orang ramai untuk datang lebih awal, sekurang-kurangnya 30 minit sebelum waktu pelepas, dan juga sentiasa pastikan butiran tiket tu yang dibeli juga yang didapati, yang diterima tepat dengan apa yang dikenaki, dan sentiasa rancang perjalanan untuk sampai ke destinasi masing-masing.
Tickets can be purchased at KTMB counters or online at www.ktmb.com.my. The E-Mutiara Berhad Consortium, or E-Mutiara, has assured that the 180 bus drivers of the company are free from any abuse of controlled substances, especially drugs. E-Mutiara Executive Chairman J. Ibrahim J. Ismail said special tests, including urine tests, were regularly carried out to ensure every driver aged between 25 to 60 years is clean and free of all banned substances. J. Ibrahim said E-Mutiara had qualified personnel who were sent to courses at University Science Malaysia, USM, and will use the expertise to conduct their own tests in the company.
Yang terbaru pun kita ada buat. Kita menggunakan kos kita sendiri. Kita beli peralatan sendiri. Sendiri. Jadi kebetulannya kita ada satu staff yang buat kursus dekat kita daripada USM. Jadi kita guna kepakaran dia untuk cek semua.
Meanwhile, J. Ibrahim said they may add 20 buses for Ramadan compared to the 15 buses currently available. In addition, he said there are now 15 buses operating at night and 8 during the day. He said for the Kuala Lumpur Kota Baru peak route, E-Mutiara may add up to 5 buses. The Pulau Pinang government will take into account the arguments put forward by certain parties, including local fishermen, before implementing the Pulau Pinang South Reclamation or PSR project near Permatang Damar Laut. Chief Minister Chow Kon Yeow confirmed that a petition of protest regarding the project was received and it will be reviewed by a special committee before being implemented.
Sepanjang masa ini kita memang ada terima surat-surat ataupun petition yang semua akan diambil kira oleh project delivery partner dan juga pihak kerajaan negeri dengan meneliti apakah isu yang dibangkitkan dan tindakan mitigasi akan dicadangkan untuk menangani isu-isu yang dibangkitkan itulah.
He said that in addition to the Environmental Impact Assessment EIA issued by the Department of Environment, his side will also take into account other implications that may arise following the implementation of the project in the future. In addition, compensation and resettlement of fishermen affected by the project will also be given its due attention. He said this after handing out Hari Raya hamper donations at Jalan 1, Kepala Batas. Pulau Pinang will be the only state in the country with all of its local authorities or PBTs are cities following the upgrade of the Seberang Perai Municipal Council MPSP to Seberang Perai City Council MBSP soon. Now, State Housing, Local Government, Town and Rural Development Committee Chairman Jagdeep Singh Deo said this follows the announcement made by the Housing and Local Government Minister Zuraida Kamarudin, who informed that the Cabinet has agreed to the upgrade.
Negeri Pulau Pinang amat bertuah sekali kerana kita satu negeri mempunyai dua pihak berkuasa tempatan dan dua-dua pihak berkuasa tempatan itu adalah status bandaraya.
Jagdeep Singh said this in a press conference held at the Seberang Perai Municipal Council MPSP this morning. MPSP is the 14th local authority which will be upgraded to a city status after the 14th general election. The increase in the number of places for matriculation program by 15,000, as announced by the Cabinet recently, will not affect the intake of Sijil Tinggi Persekolahan Malaysia (STPM) school leavers into first degree studies at public universities. The Education Ministry said this is because the entry selection process is based on meritocracy and availability of placement at the universities. The ministry in a statement today said that the Higher Education Department is responsible for supervising entry into public higher learning and skills training institutes for those with Sijil Pelajaran Malaysia (SPM), Sijil Tinggi Persekolahan Malaysia (STPM) and similar qualifications. Based on this, all candidates who qualify with the highest marks, irrespective of race, religion, state or status in life, is given a chance of studying at public institutions of higher learning. The ministry said between 2017 and 2018, there had been an increase of 4,242 STPM entries into public higher learning institutions, while matriculation entries had increased by 1,981 for the 2018-2019 session. The ministry's clarification comes after Education Minister Dr. Mazli Malik's statement that the Cabinet had agreed to increase the matriculation program student intake from 25,000 to 40,000, but the 90% quota for Bumiputra would remain. Now, on a related note, the matriculation program is important to sustain racial harmony in the country through equal involvement of all races in science, technology and professional fields. University Technology Mara UiTM Vice-Chancellor Professor Dr. Muhammad Azrai Kasim said the racial gap in science, technology and professional fields was still significant, in which Bumiputras was still lagging behind. He said, for example, in the medical field, according to the Malaysian Medical Council in 2018, there were 24,891 Bumiputras compared to 48,228 other races. Moreover, he said, according to Board of Engineers Malaysia, there were only 36,024 Bumiputras compared to 101,478 of other races involved in the professional field in 2017. In a statement released today, Professor Dr. Muhammad Azrai said this gap should be bridged. He said UiTM urged all parties not to turn the country's education into a polemic and to follow the harmony and social justice guidelines set out in the federal constitution. Taking a look at international business news now, after Google announced that it is ceasing some business with Huawei, Bloomberg reported today that chipmakers like Intel, Qualcomm and Broadcom are stopping component supplies to the Chinese tech giant until further notice. Now, this is a huge blow to the company's future as a device maker. Now, Google's ban means that Huawei cannot use certain parts of Android, including Google Play services, Google Maps and Gmail, but it can still use to open part of Android, aka Android Open Source Project, AOSP, and make its phones work. However, with chip makers banning trade with Huawei mean that it won't get critical components like modems and processors. While Huawei already uses its own Kirin series of processors in its phones, it has to source other components from non-US companies to keep making devices. The company's CFO, Ren Zhenfei, told Japanese media last week that it will be fine even if the US companies don't supply chips to Huawei. Last week, US President Donald Trump signed an executive order that put Huawei on blacklist known as Entity List. Effectively, the US-based companies are barred from doing any business with corporations on that list. Google, Qualcomm, Intel's bans are the result of that executive order. Last year, Huawei toppled Apple to gain second place in the worldwide smartphone market despite not selling handsets in the US. But this new development endangers the company's identity as a phone maker. It will be interesting to see what's Huawei's response to the US companies shunning it out. National women's diver Nur Dabita Mohammad Sabri ended Malaysia's medal drought in the 2019 Diving World Series DWS after clinching the bronze medal in the final leg of the tournament in London on Sunday. The 19-year-old accumulated 344.40 points after 5 rounds of dives in a 3-meter springboard event in the tournament held at London Aquatic Centre, Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park. According to the International Swimming Federation or FINA website www.fina.org, this was Nur Dabita's second medal in DWS, having won the silver with Pandalela Rinong in the women's 10-meter platform synchronized event in Windsor, Canada in 2017. Australian diver Madison Keeney bagged the gold in the event with 368.3 points, while Jennifer Abel of Canada settled for silver with 353.05 points. Earlier, Nur Dabita, who paired up with Muhammad Shafiq Puteh in the mixed 3-meter synchronized event, finished 5th out of 8 pairs with 302.43 points. For the record, Malaysia failed to produce any medal finish in previous 4 legs: Sagamihara, Japan, Beijing, China, Montreal, Canada, and in Kazan, Russia. Pahang had to be satisfied with just a point after they were held to a goalless draw in their Super League match at their home turf, the Darul Makmur Stadium in Kuantan, last night. Pahang had 2 good chances in the 27th and 53rd minutes, but the attempts by Captain Matthew Thomas Davis and Sadil Ramdhani did not bear fruit. In the 89th minute, Sadil came close again, but his pile driver went above the crossbar. Perak was solid in defence to take home a point. Pahang coach Dollah Saleh said his boys are too dependent on their foreign striker, Dixon Nwakeme, so much that his absence affected their opportunity to create victory. He said this was also the reason why the Elephant squad was held to a goalless draw by Perak. Pahang remained in second place with 26 points, while Perak lies in 6th place with 18 points. And that's it from us. In our top story, another suspect remanded over military equipment probe. Join us again at 12:30 tomorrow afternoon. I'm Jessica Lee. Thank you for watching.